Welcome to the Kissing Spine podcast. How nice of you to join. In this podcast, I discuss several topics around kissing spine, like what kissing spine is, the different medical treatments, the function of different body parts, functional and dysfunctional training techniques, saddle fit, and a whole lot more. All put together to help you support your horse with the kissing spine. I wish you a lot of fun listening, and if you like this podcast, make sure to become a subscriber so you won't miss any of my episodes. Hi y'all, and welcome back to the Kissing Spine podcast. And today I would like to talk to you guys about the importance of the walk work, because working in the walk is something that is so underestimated how valuable this is. And it doesn't really matter whether you're doing this in hand or while doing it on a lunge or while doing it in the written work. Like, people tend to be very eager to go to a faster pace, to a higher gait, because they feel that then they ask more of the horse, and then your horse will develop quicker. So the quicker we get out of the walk, the more work we're going to get done. This could not be further away from the truth, because the walk, because it's so slow, actually helps your horse to get through the body more, having more time to process what it is that you want from your horse. The walk is a really good gait to teach your horse new things, because he has time to think about where to put his feet, and he has more time to process what it is that you're asking from your horse. So this podcast is all about working in the walk. Are you ready? I'm ready. I'm excited about this because I really think that this is going to help you bring a new dimension to your training. All right. So let's take, for example, the horse that just got diagnosed. Maybe you're not going to do anything medical at this point. Then the walk work is the ideal gait where you're going to explain your horse how to use the body differently. And I'm not saying that you did a bad job before. Definitely not going to say that. But you will notice that once you're going to do kissing spine rehab, that you want to look for a different movement from your horse that you're not really taught to do when you were younger, or to make that a part of your training in general. And let me tell you that the way I train kissing spine horses is pretty much the same as what I do with my young horses. The only difference is, and I've said this before on different podcasts, is that with my younger horses, their development just goes quicker. First of all, because they're young, so they're still growing, they're still making muscle tissues. So on average, they don't really have anything to compensate. Their development goes quicker. But the downside of a younger horse is they still grow and they still develop. So when they grow, and I notice this, for example, with my horse Raven now, she is 5.5 and she's growing and developing, which means that every time she grows a little bit, her balance is off and she needs to resettle in a new balance with the development that her body had. So that means sometimes I need to take a step down to give her time to settle in how her body has evolved, and then I can take a step up, and then I can take a step down. All right. So the walk is a really good gait to get them resettled with the little changes that the body gives with my young horses. And with kissing spine horses, it's a really good gait to teach them how to move through the body, to find softness and relaxation again. So when your horse is struggling in a higher gait, for example, in the trot, you can scale back to the walk and say, okay, you don't have to get so tense. You can slow down a little bit and find your softness again. Start working through the body more. With lunging, it's a really good way to get a little bit more distance between you and your horse. So when you've started the work in hand and in the walk, and you're getting your horse through the body there, you can say, okay, now try to do this a little bit more on your own. Don't do that in the trot. Start in the walk. Explain your horse there. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit more distance. Do it more on your own. Now I'm going to add a little bit more distance. See if you can still do it on your own. If your horse is starting to struggle, you can get a little bit closer, help them there again, and then take a step back again. Do it in the walk. Why would you do that in a faster gait? Because training a horse is not just about getting as quickly as much done. Training a horse is also teaching a horse to do something and giving them time to process and giving them time to develop and get stronger, and giving them time to get settled into a new movement or in a different movement. So, working in hand, it's not just about getting them through the body. While doing work in hand, you can teach them yielding, you can teach them shoulder fore, which you can highly benefit from as soon as you're ready to get in the saddle. All right. So, what I teach to all my students is training with a strategy. And the walk is a very important part of that foundation, because you want to have a foundation where you can fall back upon. That if you get stuck somewhere, that you know you have something where you can go back to, where you know that you're going to get back to the quality that you want. And training a horse is teaching a horse something, but also trying to get the highest quality possible while developing your horse and keeping that quality there for as long as you can, because that will make your horse stronger. All right. So, for example, if I would start to introduce ridden work, I would work a little bit in hand, getting them through the body. Then I would do a little bit of lunging with the saddle on, just to warm them up more, and maybe do some trot work if they can handle that. And if they can, I just get on for 5 or 10 minutes and just do work in the walk. See if I can get that body going and maintaining that same quality with the rider as I would have while working in hand and lunging. If my horse is starting to struggle in the walk there, he's not going to do it in the trot. And the danger of doing trot work too quickly is that if your horse is not really through the body and not really balanced, and they're not straight, the suspension of your horse is not fully working, which is okay if that happens in the walk. But if you get that in the trot work, what's going to happen is that they're going to slam their feet down into the ground, and then, the back is not working, the back is not engaged, the back is not up, they're not straight, or not as straight as possible. So the suspension of those legs is not fully working. That is going to get you more higher chances to get tendon injuries and those kind of things, because your horse is going to start to compensate. And that is for sure something that we do not want. So this is something to think about. Why would you go to a higher gait if your horse doesn't really seem to be ready for that higher gait? What do you try to get out of this? And this is where I see with a lot of people, their instant reaction is, yeah, okay, but my horse is fresh, so the quicker I can trot him, the easier he's going to let go of that energy, and then, from there on. Okay, you can do that on the lunge in the beginning. Why would you do that while being on the back of your horse and your horse is not really able to fully give the highest quality in the ridden work? So my goal always is to find the highest quality I can for as long of a period of time that I can get my horse to give that to me. As soon as I'm losing quality, I'm training muscles that I don't want to develop. I'm having my horse compensating in the training. So I want to keep on adapting the training to the level that my horse can give the highest quality. Okay, if that means that in a trot my horse is struggling, I can go back to the walk. And there your horse is still going to develop. And then there's another myth that I would like to get a little bit out of your head. Because a lot of people claim that the walk is a gauge you cannot really develop. It couldn't be further away from the truth, to be honest, because the walk is very easy to develop and get better. But you need to be willing to take the time to do so. All right. So when horses struggle in the walk, you often see this when they're forced to be in a higher frame, that they can actually maintain themselves. So if you have a horse that's really like tilting his head, not really easy to maintain contact, and they're struggling in the walk, trying to bend their bodies, it just means that they're not able to bring the back up in that frame yet. And with younger horses or a little bit fresh horses, people are very afraid that if they let go of the reins a little bit and give them more space in the front, that they might run off. But the thing is that when a horse is being forced in the frame and he's trying to find their way but starting to compensate, that's where they get tense. That's where their backs is going to be uncomfortable, and that is where the horse is struggling all the time. Well, wouldn't struggle make you tense? and uncomfortable. And if you if the tensity is getting too much at a certain point, they're going to explode. And this is what happens. And then people say, see, I cannot let go of the rein, or I cannot, when the horse is, no. 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 So when you start to teach the horse that they are allowed to move in the walk, you will see that their walk is going to develop. The more they're going to loose up in the body, and the more they're going to get moving through the body in softness and relaxation while staying active, the bigger the walk is going to become, the more developed the walk is going to become. And that's what you want. You really want that slow motion where they give the fullest in their bodies. That's where they're going to develop. That's where these joints that might be a little bit tight because they've been compensating for a period of time actually start to loosen up again. All right, this is something I learned when I broke my arm, that movement and the joints really get stuck if you don't move them for a longer period of time. I already talked about this in different podcasts, so I'm not going to elaborate on that story. But if you have joints that are a little bit stuck due to the lack of movement in the past, the walk work, because it's slow, actually helps them to loosen up these joints. They're not able to do that in a trot. You could use the trot, though, to develop the walk. All right, so a lot of people talk about using transitions to make your horse stronger. But the thing is, I actually use the transitions, walk, trot, walk, to develop the walk. Because if the horse is a little bit slow, lacking a little bit of activation in the walk, if I make the transition to the trot and then ask them to come back, what I try to do is ask them to bring that activity from the trot back to the walk to open up that walk. So if you're a part of my Facebook group, lately I've been posting some videos of Pura, which is older, and she's always a little bit stiff in the beginning. And what you really see with her is how the walk, trot, walk transitions open her up. So yes, she warms up when she's going a little bit faster. So now at this point, when I'm doing this podcast, it's freezing outside. So she's a little bit more tight in the body due to the cold. Doing those walk, trot, walk transitions warms up her body, loosens up the body, which improves the walk. And the more she's getting loose in the walk, the better her trot is going to be. All right? So that's what I try to do. So if you have a horse that struggles a lot in the trot, my suggestion would be, see if you can improve the walk first. Apparently your horse is struggling in the trot. Apparently your horse is not really comfortable in the trot. Apparently your horse is not really able to have, really push that back up and get those hind ends underneath its body because he hasn't really developed enough yet. The walk is the perfect gait to improve that. There's no shame in just walking your horse. A lot of people see going back a gait as a sort of weakness. But my horse cannot do that yet. He needs to be able to trot. And while giving your horse time to develop and giving your horse time to get stronger through the body, doing that in the walk is going to improve your trot and canter so much that you will see how the walk is giving you another dimension in your training. And you're going to see the value of doing the walk to teach your horse new things, and using the walk if your horse gets stuck somewhere to say, okay, let's take a step back, let's find softness and relaxation and a full motion through the body again, and then let's try again. Because if you keep on going, your horse gets tense, and you and your horse don't really know how to get back to that softness again. It's really hard to go back to that quality that you're looking for in the training. All right. So the last thing that I would like you to think about is try to work with the horse you have today. This is a saying that Warwick Schiller uses a lot. And what a lot of people do, especially if they had their horse for a longer period of time, they're thinking about, oh yeah, but I did that jumping and I did that cross and I did the higher level dressage. My horse knows how to do that. But fact is, if your horse has been diagnosed with kissing spine, he might knows how to do that while compensating. Bringing them back to that level, using their body to its fullest potential and really moving through the body is either something they might not ever learn again, but it's also something that your horse cannot give at this point. He needs other muscles developed to get there. All right. So instead of thinking where you would like to be with your horse, that is good. Having a goal in your training that you want to work towards to can keep you very motivated to keep on going. So I don't want to take that away from you. But you cannot expect that when your horse is able to deliver this. All right. And that's why I feel that walk work is just so important. Again, it's your foundation. If your horse starts to struggle here, you can go back to there, go back to the walk, find that softness, find that full motion, and then try again. So I had a chat today with a lady that has a Grand Prix horse, and she's worried a lot about, getting that transition from working him in a full stretch and bringing him up in the work. And this is the same thing with the walk work. If she notices, if after she does the canter with him, that he comes back in quite a round up frame, he doesn't really want to let go, he gets a little bit tense. And this is where you can use the walk. If you did the canter, to loosen up your body, because the canter transition can be very beneficial to help your horse loosen up even more. But if you come back to the trot and your horse is really restless and like running a little bit and getting tense and curling behind the bit, then that is not a quality trot. But the transition can help your horse loosen up. So what I would do there, for example, do the canter transition, come back to the trot. If my horse starts to rush, I take back to the walk, find softness and quality there again, and then try the trot again. All right? And that's also with making the transition to a working frame. You can try this in a walk. Find that soft motion. Then pick up your reins a little bit. Keep your hands soft. Try to push them from behind to the front. And then pick them up a little bit. Do they start to struggle? Let go. Give them more space and then try again. All right? If they still struggle, let go. Give them space. Find that full motion and then bring them back up. All right? Doing it that way, you do it systematically. Don't ask more than 3 times on the same side. So after the 3rd time your horse doesn't settle, switch sides, give length, find that full motion, and then try to bring them back up. If after 3 times your horse doesn't do it, doesn't settle, he's not going to do it yet, he's not strong enough. You can do the same in the trot, but if your horse gets tense and then starts to struggle and rush, and when you ask them to go back to the stretch, and your horse doesn't really find it, take him back to the walk. There's no shame in taking your horse back to the walk. Actually, if you start implementing this in your training, what you're saying to your horse is, hey, I noticed that you're struggling. I'm not going to keep you pushing until you get it, because that's what people do. No, hey, I see you. I see that you're struggling. Let's take a step back where I know that you can find the relaxation and the softness again. All right? And that doesn't mean they have to be slow, because I do want my horse to be active, also in the walk, but it means that you're going to start training with a strategy. It means that you're going to start training on a foundation. All right. And the walk is such an important gate through the 3 phases of training, which is work in hand, lunging, and riding. The walk is such an important gate. It is your foundation. All right. It's your point that you can always go back to if your horse starts to struggle somewhere. And being able to recognize that your horse is struggling and being able to show to your horse, hey, I notice here that you're struggling and I want to help you out. Let's take a step back. That will make your horse trust you. All right. That is going to teach your horse, like, hey, when I struggle, it's not that your horse doesn't want to give it. This is an idea implemented by the equestrian world that we're all trained to think that way. But it's bullshit. Sorry to use my language that way, but it's total BS, because a horse is an animal that wants to give. All right? A horse is an animal that wants to perform for you. It's an animal that wants to please. It knows to do so out of survival. So if your horse is not able to do what you ask, keeping them in a frame until they get it is just telling your horse, hey, you're struggling. I don't care. Just keep on going. Instead of taking a step back. Hey, you're struggling. I don't want you to struggle. I want to work with you. Keep on pushing is not working with your horse. It's pushing your horse to do something he cannot do. All right. So that will make him trust less in you, trust less in the body. That will create a more tense horse, and a tense horse cannot fully move through the body. All right. So by saying, hey, I saw that, let's take a step back, you will teach your horse that you see him. which means that your horse can relax with you, try its best, and that it's okay if your horse cannot fully deliver and you're willing to take a step back. And that's where I go back to work with the horse that you have today. Every day can be different, all right? And you need to adapt your training to whatever it is that your horse can deliver on that day. All right, maybe the weather is going to get a little bit colder. Maybe your horse is building up a coat for the winter time. That takes energy. In that stage, when that body is working so hard, you cannot expect your horse to give the same quality as it would do when it's summertime and, the sun is shining and it's springtime, not summertime because summers are hot, but springtime and the weather's getting a little bit better, the sun is shining, their bodies are all getting, a little bit more supple when it's a little bit warmer, then you cannot expect your horse to give that same quality over and over again. There will be periods that your horse will fall back a little bit because whatever it is that the body is doing, and there will be periods that your horse is going to be better. And when they're going to be better, you want to take advantage of that, obviously, because that's where your horse develops. But when you need to take a step back because you notice that your horse is struggling a little bit, don't worry about it too much. Obviously, if your horse is lame, it's something different, But, if your horse is just sound, but maybe a little less energetic, but still moving through the body as much as it can and it feels good, take a step back. The walk is a perfect gait for that. So that was my rant about the importance of the walk work and how people underestimate how important that walk in your foundation of your training is. And I really hope that you're willing to try to add more walk work in your training and see if you can try to develop your horse more in the walk and give your horse more time to learn to use the body more and more through the body. Let me give you the example of yoga, right? Yoga isn't fast in the beginning. You can do yoga relatively fast, going from the one pose to the other as what you would like in a dressage. You can make it a little bit more up-tempo, but to really get that full motion and stretch in your body and getting stronger in that, in the beginning, you need to move slow. Finding your pose, finding your stretch, finding your mobility, you do it slowly, all right? And the same is with our horses. First, you start slow, explaining how to do the pose, how to do the motion. And then from there, you can start to build up speed. All right? The walk is pretty much your most important foundation in the training of your horse. All right? So if you have questions about how to develop your walk, you can send me a message on Facebook. You can send me an email. There's different ways you can find me. I also recommend the psychological impact of kissing spine on the horse. There I discuss a little bit more on this. And you can do the rehab strategy course because there I take you through the full phase of using a training strategy, including how to use the walk. I'm going to give you some exercises to help your horse really get through the body. If you do the live course with me, there's a private session in there as well. So I can really, some people use that for a private lesson. If you have good reception at your yard, I can just zoom right into your yard and I can really help you get your horse in that first stage of training through the body, finding that relaxation and softness so you can start developing your horse up from there. Totally recommend it. You can find it below in the comments, but you can also just send me a message and I will hook you up with it. I hope you're all good. For now, we're going towards Christmas, so I'm already going to wish you a happy holidays because I will not be doing a podcast for the next 2 weeks. I'm really sorry for that, but I need my vacation as well, so I'm going to take a 2-week break from podcasting, but I will see you guys in the new year. Happy holidays, and until the next one. Bye. I would like to thank you again for listening to this podcast. If you think that this podcast is interesting to someone else, please share it on social media so others can find it too. This way we can create more awareness about what the options are with a kissing spine horse.